Hi, friends. A very good morning to all of you. Sorry, I think we had some issue with the audio today. So I welcome you all for coming on this webinar today. And I also wish everybody who's come in a very happy Navratras. Friends, I'm Sonya Chowdhry, MD at Franchise India. And this session is about, how Franchise India can work with you in starting your own business. And friends, I'll also request all of you who are attending this webinar, we try and make it as interactive as possible. So whatever questions you have, I'm happy to even answer that. And you can put all your queries in the Q&A box. I'll be happy to answer and take them live as I take you through this next 35 odd minutes of our small talk and a very short presentation. So, friends, Franchise India has been Start Your Own Business Specialist, and this session is about starting your own business. And we all acknowledge, we understand that India has largely been a very big shopkeeper nation. We have every home today, which is an aspiration of starting a business, owning a business, at least at some point of time in their life. And when we look at the opportunity in bigger cities, and I would say job opportunities in bigger cities like Delhi, Bombay, Bangalore, Hyderabad, we still have these cities which would still give you opportunities of high-paying jobs. But the smaller cities don't have high-paying job opportunities, and franchising comes as a very, very big rescue. And today, when we look at the startup ecosystem in India, we see almost 49% of these startups are from tier 2 and tier 3 locations, which itself gives a very big validation of the spirit of entrepreneurship, the potential of entrepreneurship in India. So, being an investor-centric and a franchise-focused company, this became, I would say, the very purpose or foundation we started our company, Franchise India. We wanted to make every Indian self-reliant through entrepreneurship, and democratization of entrepreneurship has been, become our mission even 25 years back when we started. And this was the foundation of our company. And you all would kind of agree with me as we were growing up and as a part of our own growing up years and maybe our parents and generation before, we were largely looking at opportunities of job and less for business, and business mindset was not very, very dominant, so to say, and was only limited to a very small community of business owners where the future generation also took up the business. I think that's something which has started changing now. Today, there are a lot of opportunities that you find people who want, and there was always a latent need, is something I would also like to say. Even with a country like India, where we have nearly 1 million brokers in real estate, similar number in stock investment, even today with an opportunity or a need which is as big as this, we still don't have many advisors in the country who can advise people on buying a business. So in these 25 years, friends, our platform has been helping prospective franchisees to research the opportunities of business which are available, which can be franchise opportunities, dealership opportunities, distribution opportunities. At the same time, we also work with business buyers to evaluate these business options, and equally, I would say, learn from the industry experts. So knowledge education forms a very big part of our entire ecosystem. So while millions of business buyers have trusted our platform of Franchise India, they have researched opportunities, which can be a unit franchise opportunity to a multi-franchise opportunity to maybe a bigger area or a master franchise opportunity of many national and international brands. I always say that we were also privileged to work directly with nearly more than 1 lakh investors who actually took guided solutions from us. When I say guided solutions, we actually handheld them through the entire process of buying a business. And at Franchise India, I also understand, buying a business or starting your entrepreneur journey is not something which is very, very easy. It requires a lot of planning around your investments, your timelines, and a lot of other things for which you need to put considerable amount of time in understanding the ecosystem, evaluating what is right for you, and very intelligently narrowing down, what business to get started with. And this is also, I would say, a combined responsibility as a franchise consultant that we carry in helping business buyers like you to take this informed decision of buying a business. So when I say I take the responsibility, means that, I equip as a company, we educate you and provide you enough information that helps you take that maybe accurate decision of what business to buy. So while I will also say that it brings all kind of it is difficult to bring sometimes absolute accuracy in the perfect fitment, what brand to choose. And so we have created a very holistic structure and very holistic approach in terms of the ROI, the growth in the industry, performance of the brand in the past few years, what could be predictable cash flows, margins. But apart from all this, the biggest emphasis that we lay is how we can work with a potential business buyer in reducing the risk in the investment, which again comes with a mix of your initial capital planning, your operational expense forecast, the competition analysis, the support that you get from the company, and these are some things that we form a base of our entire advisory structure. And as a consultant, we always take a research-based approach so that we can bring in, I would say, non-biased approach in advising you, and never base our recommendations based on anything which is personal to us. And equally, as I see today, the business buyer is very evolved. Right? There was a time when people didn't have too much of information on businesses. That is not the case today. But having maybe an advisor can be valuable in your business buying decision, I would say, because advisor brings in the industry experience, they bring in insights, at the same time able to align your interests and create a balance between the franchisor and you as a potential business buyer. And also one thing which I see, which actually is very, very challenging, as a business buyer today, I meet a lot of investors who want to buy a business. The very first thing I hear that we see a lot of options around us, right? There are many businesses, there are many brands, I would say, a lot of new industries which have come in. So they find it equally difficult to determine, how do I get started? And that's where, we actually help you assess the viability of your business. We also work with you to outline strategies and timelines for your path of starting a business. And we also understand that a business buyer like you today, you don't need just product details. You need a lot of insights, right? A lot of intelligence and a lot of data which can help you take that decision. Which means, we work with you to create these personalized solutions which are based on your investment, your location, your profile, and many other criteria. So, friends, we'll take you through a small presentation. I'll request Harshika if we can put maybe that slide on the screen. And while she does that, and I give you a little background also on franchising, I'll also request, like I mentioned, let's make the session interactive. If you can also put your questions in the Q&A box, and maybe I'd like to post some questions to you, which I'll request if you can answer these questions. And my first question, friends, to all of you would be, because starting a business is not something which is instant. If today I decide I want to start a business, I start working backwards on the timeline. I want to start a business, and accordingly, we start planning maybe our finances, our maybe inner circle, who we want to be a part of this venture of ours. So my first question is, what is that timeline for you? How many days or months are you looking at? Is it immediate? A lot of people come and say, we have been exploring a lot of opportunities and maybe would like to start that immediately. So what is that timeline for you? It can be weeks, it can be months, it can be maybe 1 year in certain cases. So go ahead and write that. And second, if you've already kind of narrowed down on the industry, not on the brand, but if on the industry you have narrowed down, also mention that you're interested in food, maybe retail, or even as specific as the category. Maybe you're looking at food, but I'm looking at maybe a QSR restaurant. I'm looking at maybe a delivery outlet. I'm looking at a cloud kitchen. So if you're as specific as that, and if you know that, please go ahead and write. And lastly, your city of interest. So friends, go ahead and write in the Q&A box. You see that at the bottom of your screen, your timeline to start the business. Kitne time mein aap business shuru karna chahte hain. The second is your interest in a specific category or industry at large. And third is your city of interest. So I'd like you to all answer in the Q&A box. Guys, go ahead and write that, because that's something which is very, very important. Before starting anything, if we have answers to at least basic timelines, that gives you first and foremost the direction to get started. For me, that's the very first point to get started. So write in, and I'll read that out. Whoever is writing first, I'm waiting to see that come in the Q&A box, and I will read out the name with your city. So friends, while you also do that, I will give you a little understanding also on franchising at large. And why franchising? While everybody has an opportunity of starting a business, आप अपना business शुरू कर सकते हैं, right? You can have your own startup, but why franchising? So if you understand the business of franchising, and if anybody has actually, been observing how the last 15 or 20 years have been, you will all agree that, franchising is a very, very big impact market, in the times that we are in. And when I say very big impact market, because it is touching everything that we are consuming in our day-to-day lives. Right? Because whatever we are consuming in a day-to-day life could be maybe a service or a product. And today, both these, whether you're consuming a service, whether you're consuming a product, most likely it is coming from a franchise outlet, right? And franchising cuts across every industry. We have seen successful franchise companies across all sectors. So be it, I would say, health, beauty, wellness app, a pharmacy store, hai, local salon, hai, gym, hai, maybe even these health centers, so to say, hospital, hotels, your food outlets, your K-12 schools, preschools, coaching centers, everything today is coming from a branded environment, and the entire branded environment is something which, franchising has a very big contribution. If I talk about the overall system sales globally in franchising, it's almost about 4.5 trillion industry, and which is even bigger than the GDP of India. And India is already the second largest franchise market in the world after America. And we have seen a very, very big growth in the last 10 years. If I talk about the market size in India, it's almost about 80 billion. And it is already growing, and it has been consistently rather growing at about 35% year on year. A majority of this growth is attributed to maybe a lot of people who have joined in. I don't know how many of you are already in business, how many of you are professionals, but if there is a community today which I relate very well is the first time business buyers. There was a time, when people were not getting into business for various reasons. There were risks, there was fear, lack of knowledge, understanding on the business. But today, 35 to 40% of the community which is buying franchisees, new businesses, are people who are first time business buyer, and this community is becoming bigger and bigger. Great. Rohitji, a very good morning to you. You're looking at something in this quarter itself. So great. This is the right time because we start our first of April, we start our new financial year. And this is the time many people look at starting a business. And in the food segment, Rohitji, there are many opportunities, perhaps, starting with 15, 20 lakhs to even fine dining, casual restaurants to clubs. I'll be more than happy to discuss with you on that. And we also have a teams in Pune who can perhaps meet with you. So friends, one thing which I missed on, at Franchise India, we have our presence in nearly 96 cities in the country, which means that most likely wherever you are from, you would have our local team, my local team already available to work with you. So we can set up maybe no obligation meetings with them, which could be virtually. Ideally, I would recommend maybe a physical face-to-face meeting so that we're able to understand your interest area and be able to recommend. And okay, I also see Visan Ji from Imphal looking at something in the grocery segment. So Visan Ji, we have recently launched a brand which is called The New Shop. This is a convenience retail company which is already there in about 90 plus locations, and about 100 plus locations they have signed recently. So between their current operations and the signed one, about 200 plus locations are already there with the company. It's a company based out of Delhi NCR, and I don't know exactly what location would that be in Imphal, but we can definitely discuss with you on the opportunity for your location. So, and today, brand consciousness is also becoming very, very big. Today, we're all consuming things. जो आपके घर में शायद आपका, maybe your apparel that you're wearing, the shoe that you're wearing, maybe your back to school supplies, a school bag which is coming in, all that is coming from a franchise brand. So there's a big consciousness also which has risen in these times, right? So franchising creates a lot of intelligent synergies because it is a combined strength of the company, the brand, the franchisor, and the franchisee who collaborates to make the business model sustainable. And so while, you as a prospective buyer need to have your own understanding and a very integrated approach in terms of, what opportunities you should consider based on your interest, experience, time involvement, risk that you want to take, finances which are involved. But equally, the companies also have their guidelines which are based on your own, experience, which can be industry, non-industry, profession, non-profession. Also, if you're in a business, but they would have their own criteria or profiles, and also your time at hand, the money that you have to invest in the business, and therefore you must undertake also a due diligence before you invest in any opportunity, right? So friends, I'll take you through this presentation, and I'll request if you have any questions, keep writing in. And so what we have done is, if you can go on the next slide, please. Next one, please. So we have done these 5 assessment tools, which we recommend every business buyer to take into consideration before investing in any business. Even if you're exploring certain opportunities, you're looking at opportunities, these are 5 tools that we recommend everyone to follow, which starts with your own assessment of self, followed by the industry that you are considering, the market where you want to open, the competition around, and lastly, the brand that you've selected. So these are 5 assessment tools which are important considerations for anybody who wants to start a business. And in the next slide, we have further segregated these 5 assessment tools into 25 points, which you see on the screen. And under these points, under these assessment tools, there are almost 4 to 7 points, which brings, in fact, the entire apprehensions one might have, a study one needs to do before getting into a business. And also we created a very interesting scorecard, right? So if you score about 20 plus, then the opportunity that you have selected is great. If your scorecard is 15 to 20, good. But if your overall score is less than 15, we do not advise you to go ahead with that opportunity. So I'll explain all these points very quickly to all of you. So starting with your own self-assessment, I personally feel, this is the most aspiring tool for any entrepreneur who wants to start a business. Everything starts with understanding what you want. It can be your own personal traits of your business skills, your time management, your experience, maybe your professional qualification, the knowledge that you have, your investment appetite, and most importantly, your ability to meet the challenges of a business. So entrepreneur mindset is something which is which can be unique to everybody. What entrepreneur means to me would be different to what it means to everybody who's listening out there. So you need to in this stage, do maybe a substantial time you need to spend yourself doing a self-discovery, find out what you like, what kind of time involvement you have in the business. And 2 important goals which needs a big alignment is your life goals and business goals, right? So unless your life goals are not aligned with the business goals, your choice of anything that you would try to put your hands on will never be accurate. Second is your financial goal, which means that what business, what kind of returns and what kind of money you want to make over a period of time. And this comes with 3 things. First is your timeline of that financial goal. Timeline in everything is very, very important. And personally, I feel if I don't have a timeline, I would never be able to get started in the very first place. Forget concluding on a business or finding a business. So timeline to achieve that financial goal. The second is the return that I expect from that goal. And third is the risk that I'm willing to take. Now, this is also very proportionate to what kind of goal financially I'm looking at. Typical, if you look at any investment that we do, these are 3 different asset classes where our fundamental investment goals are defined, right? So one investment class is safety, second is income, third is growth. So safety means I'm looking at low risk, low return. Income means I'm looking at moderate risk and moderate return. And growth means I'm looking at maybe high risk and high rewards. Right? So there can be no other equation where I'm saying that I don't want to take any risk, but I'm looking at a business which gives me highest growth. There would never be any kind of such asset or businesses which can be made available, right? So this equation works only this manner. Third is your capital, which is available with you to invest in the opportunity, which we always recommend that one should not kind of over leverage himself in terms of taking soft loans, because the biggest reason for business failure is lack of financial management. And at least you should have a runway for the first 6 months, right? And also your cost of capital becomes very, very high when you start a business, and the interest that you have to pay on that business, sometimes you're not able to accommodate, because business itself needs anything between 3 to 6 months time to come to an optimum level. And the first 3 months are comparatively very, very critical. So at least if we have to advise, 50% of that investment that you're bringing in the business is something that should be able to do without any loan. And 50% can be a soft, or maybe loan that you can take. Then is your time involvement in the business, which again is a very important parameter for franchising. If you look at businesses, and today terms like FICO, FOCO model, are very, very predominant. And a lot of companies even offer franchisee-owned company operated models or franchisee invested company operated models, but largely the models that you will encounter are franchisee and franchisee operated, because time involvement is one of the most important criteria which companies look at. Now, this time involvement can be anything from maybe 2 to 3 hours to about 5 to 6 hours, and the initial days of the business is comparatively very high. So we only count somebody as an operator franchisee if he has at least a minimum of 75 to 80 hours to be invested in the business. Right? So he counts to be a operator franchisee. And lastly is your fallback plan, because fallback plan can help you mitigate maybe losses or give you enough lead time for a business to come to an optimum level. Second is industry assessment. So how do you assess the industry, readiness maybe for your market, and the critical factors that determine maybe a company's success within the industry, right? Even if the industry is doing great, I need to figure out, why that brand in my market would make sense. So we look at the overall opportunity size in that industry, how big that industry is it already overcrowded? Do we have already many players who are doing maybe what the brand is trying to also offer? Is this industry very, very commoditized? And as a franchise partner, is there an opportunity for you to be a first mover in that location? So these are certain things that you must consider before you take a decision of the industry you want to get in. Second, always look at the growth prospects, right? So which means that any investment that we are doing is an investment we're doing for the future. So investment means future, right? So opportunity that you want to invest also means that it has to be a future fit opportunity. You need to look think and act on a time horizon of years and not months, right? So anything which is going to remain relevant in the next 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years is some opportunity which will have a good growth prospect. Third is your demand and supply gap. And this is something which sometimes can be very, very tricky. When I say demand and supply gap, it not necessarily means that I have a property in a location which already has, say, 10 food brands or a 10 salons or a 10 gym, but they could be a gap in terms of the pricing. There could be gap in terms of maybe technology, convenience, right? The solutions which that business is offering to the end consumer. So find that gap and see if the opportunity that you have selected is able to fill in that gap. And lastly is innovation, which I would say is again very, very important for any brand to remain relevant for the end consumer. And again, this innovation, like I mentioned, could be a product innovation, it could be a solution innovation, it could be the entire service offering innovation. And then we come to market assessment. And when we look at the readiness of a market, or how do I assess the market, I need to consider things like at what stage the business is, right? The brand I've selected, at what stage the business is. Is it at a startup stage? Is it at a growth stage? Is it at a scale stage? So these are the stages that you need to considerably understand and see what opportunity would exist in a market based on the stage of the business they are. And second, it could also be the industry itself is new, right? So maybe it takes time, and your readiness of market for that industry is something which requires understanding, which again is very important. And there are two important aspects when we do market assessment. One is your regulations of your market. When I say market, could be your state guidelines on regulations of liquor, drug license for a pharmacy. It could be electric vehicle guidelines for your state, which are very different to what the center would have to say, because these are both center and state subjects. So understand these regulations around your state. And the other important aspect is the real estate location. The one thumb rule which we advise every investor when you look at real estate is you look at your nearest competition, maybe your one or two top competition that you think are there in that city, and look at what locations are they present in the market. And in these locations also understand where you have higher performance, right? Even if the outlet or the competition is operating, say, 10 locations in the city, out of these 10 locations, which are the 2 or 3 spots, which are doing highest revenue or performance, and that short, give you a big understanding of what locations would do well for you. Then is obviously your competition, which is again important to be understood, because any business today, will always have a comparative. How do I compete against the brand that you've selected against the competition? What edge do I have against the other maybe 4 or 5 companies could be their go-to-market strategy, could be their support which they are giving you. Some of the competition, sometimes the company, when the company is entering new in the market, they also, offer you things like maybe initial support in rental. There's a company in Pune, who's offering that for the first 2 months for their franchise partners. So understand what competitive advantage you have over the other brands that you have selected, and important is also to get a thorough and deep understanding on the offering and how different the product or service is, right? So that will help you in creating a differentiation between or amongst the 3-4 opportunities that you're considering. And finally comes the assessment of the company. Now, assessment of the brand has many aspects. And I would say every time you're looking at an opportunity, first and foremost, we always advise that if you've gone through the information, we always encourage people to do a physical meeting with the decision makers. And that's what we always recommend, and we arrange that for you. So meet the leadership team and the management team and understand things which are important, for your decision making in terms of maybe the average success rate of the franchise partners or their existing outlets. Second, how long the franchisees stay on an average in the system. Some of them might be multi-unit franchisee, might be operating 4 or 5 units also. So these things give you reflection of the support, the brand or the commitment of the brand towards their franchisee and expansion. And other important elements, as far as brand is concerned, is also to understand typical your I would say, operating cost, your reinvestment. Reinvestment can be in the stock. Reinvestment can also be in, I would say, refurbishment of your premise. So understand the reinvestment aspect, and because you would need to have some amount of capital put aside for that reinvestment, and at what stage that investment needs to come in terms, when you invest in a product company, you need to rotate your stock, right? It can be maybe a quarterly stock rotation. It could be a monthly stock rotation, depending on the industry category that you're in. So you need to keep aside that working capital to be rotated in the inventory. Margins and ROI are another element that has to be, again, very thoroughly understood. Margins are, again, different industry to industry, and also in the same industry, different categories would operate on different margins, and the same categories, again, would have different margins. Maybe integrated player margins would be much better than somebody who does not have a integration of their business operations. And margins, again, is a function of value and volume, right? So some businesses might not be very high on margins, but they play on bigger value, right? Maybe a business like jewelry, my ticket size is big. The margins might be low. Maybe a business like grocery, one of our friends mentioned grocery as a interest in the business. So grocery works only when your volumes are high, right? So higher volume, margins are comparatively low, but your typical volumes are very, very high in the business. And then is obviously your legal agreement, which is in a country like India, because we don't have any law, so to say, on franchising. Everything which becomes a part of the contract becomes a binding between the parties. So in India, we work on the British contract. And then lastly, which I would like to mention, is how the company is hedging your risk in the investment. You're looking at a franchise business because you're looking at a business which is tried, which is tested. So understand how that hedging of the risk is done by the company, especially if it is a company which you're buying a stock. Most of the companies today in retail are giving a SOR model, right? So they would obviously bill it to you, but they would give you return of stock which is not selling. They have policies around stock correction. So that is something which is important for you to understand. And also equally important, I would say, the exit terms, which forms a very important part of your legal agreement, has to be clearly defined in the agreement. Right? So next slide, please. So this is the process, friends, that Franchise India follows. And this is a 4-stage process, which starts with information, where our teams work with you to understand your requirement, your profile, based on the 4 fitments, which is first and foremost a strategic fit, which means maybe your qualification, your profession, your interest. It could also be a property that you own and what business can work on that property. Second is operational fit, which means your time involvement in the business, number of hours that you have to put in the business. Then we have market fit. Market fit is primarily your location and what businesses are viable to be done in that location. And followed by financial fit, which is the investment that you want to make, and also the working capital which is involved. So based on these 4 fitments, our teams work with you to narrow down the opportunities. While at Franchise India, we represent nearly 16,000 companies alone on the website. and almost every day there's a new opportunity that we launch. But when we suggest you these opportunities, we don't send you a bundle of opportunities and say these are 100 companies in F&B, choose what you like. But we narrow down based on the information that we get from you. And followed is by that is tri-party meetings is something that we encourage very, very strongly. Anybody who's keen on starting a business, even if you have not finalized on that brand, we ideally advise that you explore at least 4 to 5 opportunities that are very closest to what you want. And that's where we participate in arranging these meetings with the leadership team, the decision-making team. And most important part is where we work with you to structure the deal, how the deal has to be structured. So which can be unique to the market, unique to maybe the volume of the business that you are sometimes taking, the relationship that you're going ahead, and maybe the future prospects, maybe the company sees with you. So that's where our bigger concentration really happens. And this is followed by a letter of intent and agreement sign up where our teams work with you through end-to-end process. Next slide, please. So this is what I covered, friends. So if you become maybe a member of Franchise India, this is what we commit to you as an advisor, which includes certain number of hours that we work with you to evaluate the opportunity, selection of industry, and also discovery days is what we call. So there are 10 discovery days that we do minimum for any business buyers. Who, if you want to sign up a business, say in 6 months' time, if you already have made up your mind. So there are two kinds of memberships. One is for a period of 12 months, one is for a period of 6 months. Where in a period of 6 months, about 10 discovery days that we give to you based on our SOMF fitment. And 15 is something that we offer to members who are there for an annual membership. Having said that, it does not mean that if your 10 discovery days are done, we'll not go and work with you on the 11th opportunity. But 10 and 15 are the minimum discovery days that we work around. And this is also followed by other services, which includes legal advice on the agreement, where we have a legal team at Franchise India who works with you and also bridges the gap between you and the company. And anybody from the session, friends, who wants to maybe even come on to one-to-one call or a meeting, like I mentioned, we have teams across India, and we would be more than happy to get you on a no obligation or a brainstorm call or a meeting, so that you're able to at least understand, what it takes for you to make an investment, take advice, your timelines. And we'll leave our email ID and our contact number also in the chat box at the bottom of your screen. So I'll request anybody who wants to maybe book this slot with our teams, do advise us. We would have our local advisors who would work with you and maybe come for a meeting, or we can invite you to our office to understand your requirement, because I see some of your requirements are very specific to the industry, location. Some of you also own a property, which I'm seeing in the comments. So based on the requirements, we would definitely be able to work around. Next slide, please. So this is what it takes, friends, to become a member with Franchise India, which is a membership fee of 25,000 for a 6 months and 50,000 period of 1 year. And this is something that we get as a commitment for the time that we put in for ensuring that we are working with serious entrepreneurs and investors who also value our time. Because at Franchise India, we get nearly 1 lakh people who inquire for opportunities every month. And it is humanly impossible for us to give that guided solution to everybody who's inquiring. So we select few who actually value our time and energy and the effort that we make. And this is followed by a brokerage that we get when the deal has been signed. So these are services, friends, that we now offer. I'll request anybody who wants to come for one-to-one meeting. We would be more than happy to block that for you. I've also put link of a session, friends. This is a company that we're launching today. It's a brand from Ahmedabad. It is a logistics company by the name of Before 11. So if you're interested to come and understand this business opportunity, they're considering only Ahmedabad at this point in time. It's an opportunity which starts with 2 lakhs of investment. So you can copy this link and get registered. The webinar starts exactly at 12 o'clock. I'm also leaving a WhatsApp number 8800493185. This comes to this WhatsApp reaches me, and email ID, if anybody wants to even write, is something I've also put in the chat box. I will also mention that, friends, the 9 days of Navratras are very, very auspicious for anybody who wants to start a business. So we've also started the series of Bharat Franchise Show, which we are doing for the 9 days of Navratra, where we bringing about 45 companies in these days, 9 days for you, and across all segments, from food, health, education, retail. So my request would be anybody who wants to maybe attend this today, tomorrow. I'm sending a link for today to all of you, and you can share with anybody in your inner circle who is exploring. So you find that also in your chat box. So it's Bharat Franchise Show at 7 p.m. and we have 6 companies which are coming and putting their entire business model presenting to all of you. And 12 o'clock today, about 20 minutes from now, there's an opportunity call before 11, logistics company from Ahmedabad, who's coming and presenting their partnership model to you. So thank you so much, friends, for being with us today. And I wish you a great day ahead. Thank you.